Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video and a whole new video series. Working on this guy here. Oh, here, so I get my microphone over here so you can hear me. As I was saying, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a new series. And as you can see here, we have a new type of thing that I'm doing. Something totally different. I have yet to do one of these. This is going back many years now. These old dragster kits that Revell used to make back in the late 80s up until about the early to mid 90s. Top Fuel dragsters, Top Fuel funny cars. What else did they make? The Pro Stock cars, those guys. They made quite a few kits of these back in those days. They don't make them anymore. You go to the hobby store or something like that, you're not going to find them. So, but thanks to things like eBay, you can get them. So, after all the planes and the tanks that I've been building, and even Gundams, why am I doing one of these? Because, well, this particular one, you see, going back a good 30 years now, I used to really be into drag racing and hot rods and building my own Mustang and souping it up and taking it drag racing and stuff like that. And I had a pretty quick car, and I used to love going down to Seattle International Raceway, called it SIR back then, down in Kent, Washington. And we used to go watch what we called back then was the Northwest Nationals. And if you ever have a chance to see a Top Fuel dragster in real life, it will blow you away, and there's no other experience like it on this planet. I guarantee you that. The amount of raw power that a single car engine can make is just absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, anyway, my mother used to really like Joe Amato, and that's this guy here. Joe Amato was like a 5-time or 4-time world champion dragster driver. Anyway, so I saw this one on eBay and I thought, I'm gonna build this one up, kind of a slight little homage to my mom, and I'm gonna build this guy. So obviously I've taken the plastic wrap off of it. Even I was really surprised the thing still had the plastic wrap off. So let's get into this. Vinyl tires, that's kind of par for the course for these kits. This particular one is molded in white. So we get some sprues in this bag, and then we have some chrome sprues. That's typical of this guy. Normal for this. We've got some decals, and we have 2 clear parts. One is the cockpit glass. I'm going to call it a cockpit. We've got an old brochure for other. Oh, you can get a free catalog. So how old is this thing? Doesn't have a date on this, but it's obviously not relevant anymore. This kit was built in 1991. Copyright 1991. Okay, let's move this box out of the way. Now, typical for car models, we're going to be building the engine first. That's, you know, just like airplanes, you always do the cockpit first. Tanks always want wheels done first. Well, cars, you always do engines first. So, just a single fold-out sheet here. Let's just fold this over a little bit so we can have a look here. I'm going to rip open this bag, very thin plastic bag here. We have our one-piece main rail for this little support piece that's got to come off the back there, and that's it. So this is nice that they do it like this, because it saves you a whole lot of headache of trying to put a whole bunch of these little bars together. So that's nice. I'm going to have to prime that with some Mr. Surfacer. I'll use Mr. Surfacer Black on that. One piece main body. With lots of detail on there with the panel lines nice and deep and thick. Yeah, there's that. We have a couple of sprues here. This one is main engine, roll cage for the driver, more engine parts. There's the driver's seat. We've got the fuel lines that run the length of the car, because top fuel dragsters have the fuel tank sitting up front here, and they actually use the gravity to force the fuel to the back of the car, because the fuel pumps are not enough for the amount of fuel that the engine wants. We've got the top wing and its support brackets. That's the I'm not sure what that piece is. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to look that up. Don't remember. It's been probably 30 years since I built this kit, or any one of these dragsters. Oil lines, there's our fuel pumps right there. We've got disc brakes for the rear wheels. There's no brakes on the front wheels. All they do is steer a little bit. A couple of cross braces and all that good stuff. We have a couple of pieces here that have come off the sprue. This looks like part of the fuel pumps, and this is part of the rear differential, otherwise known as the axles. Rear parts of the frame. There's part of the whole rear diff. There's a piece that this piece should be sitting in here. In here, there's our parachutes. All right. So there's not a lot of sprues. Oh, it looks like we've got another piece off here. This is just a piece of sprue. So that's nothing. That's nothing. Okay. And that would be it. Okay. Oh, hello there, Mega Bowie. Nice to see you again, as usual. Okay, so we're going to build our engine, and ta-da, we have the engine built. Right? Here we go. Here's our engine, all nicely put together, except for the oil pan. There's no oil pan on it, and there's no fuel pump that goes on the front yet. Okay? Now, how did we get here? Well, that's another kit. So I bought another Dragster kit, and I was just putting the engine together, as you guys kind of seen. If you're watching my channel and you're following me along, you know that I've kind of been playing around with that a little bit, and it's kind of been sitting here for a while, sort of in the way. But I will show you guys the assembly of the engine while we're doing this. So it's not too difficult. It's pretty, I would say it's pretty standard. It's not hard to do at all. We take our two halves of the engine block, which includes the transmission. Top fuel dragsters, the amount of power that they have, the transmissions are actually a single speed transmissions. And while we're doing it, we'll take the cylinder heads for the engine. We'll take those off. We'll take the engine, the front of the engine, and we'll take the intake manifold, and we'll start with those. Okay, here's our fan belt that's going to go on the front, but we're going to wait for that. Okay, so let me get my knife, and we're going to clean up these pieces, and I'll change the camera so you can see a little better, and we'll get these glued together here. Let's see here. Okay, so let's clean these up. The little nub marks are kind of inconsequential on this. You don't really see much. There's a little bit of flash on here, not too much. Nothing that's really going to affect very much. It's an old Revell kit, right? So you expect the molds not to be perfect, especially from Revell, right? Of course, these things were built back in the days when Revell and Monogram were kind of thinking about merging and stuff like that. Or, you know, there was a time when Revell and Monogram were two complete separate companies, and then for a short term in the late 80s, or maybe it was in the 90s, where they kind of merged. You could see their kits said Revell Monogram on them, and then all of a sudden you only saw Revell on the kits and no more Monogram. So I don't know if there was a buyout or if Monogram just went under. Maybe they joined with Revell in an attempt to stay afloat, but it was just too little too late. I really don't know. I don't know all the politics behind it. I only know from a consumer's point of view, Revell and Monogram were two different companies. Then they seemed to merge, and then Monogram went away. They just disappeared, and there were no more Monogram models. Just cleaning up my little nubs here on all the pieces so that we get a good fit. Also clearing away any flashing. It's going to make it look not all that great. So this piece here not only is the front of the engine, it is also includes the engine mounts, where it's going to mount to the frame, and it also has the what are called magnetos. On your car that you have in your garage or your driveway, it has an ignition coil pack, but these guys use magnetos. It does the same function, it's just the voltage is 10 times greater. They are so much more powerful, and that's about it. I seem to be having an issue with my widget. Bear with me a second here. I need to authorize this, so please bear with me. This is why I missed the chats. I missed the chat. I apologize for that. Hey Nico, yeah, sorry I missed missed you there. Didn't come up on my screen. Well, great to see you back. What a new challenge. Good luck. Yes. Like I said, I used to build these things. When I was younger, in my teenage years and into my early 20s, I used to have a whole bunch of car models that I had built. Not that I was any spectacular model builder back then, and in fact a lot of the techniques I have now I didn't even know existed back then. Didn't know anything about them. Got a little bit of flash here, got to clean. Yeah, some of the stuff I know today I didn't even think about back then. Things like, I've just been learning how to polish up a clear coat in the last week, and which things to use, and just that alone. I'd never polished a clear coat in my life up until a week ago, and it's all about learning these new things. I don't have a good 100% alignment, so I'm going to hold this for a second to let that glue set on here. Not that it really matters. There's little details like this you don't even see. You'd never notice. There's so much else going on these car engines. See, like, we have round pegs that are going into square holes, and yet it works, right? It's not a big deal. Is it perfect? No. Is this this could be a lot straighter and flatter, so I'm going to do that. I'm just going to file that down a little bit. Again, it's Revell, so it's not perfect. And, you know, back in the 90s, Revell kits, nobody really complained that they were imperfect or that they didn't look good. They were all good enough. Their car models were decent. So we're going to just glue this on here. A bit of glue there. Get that on there. They do have a little guide pin there for some reason to make sure you're getting this on where it's supposed to, but it's really unnecessary. Our cylinder heads don't matter what side. There is no left and right. It's just you line up that big hole there with this little thing sticking out, and that makes sure that you have these little half circles, which are for the exhaust, facing out, and that's literally all it is. So the reason I do these and the intake manifold is so that it's easier to line them all up at the same time, because again, it's not a perfect solid fit, and so you have a little bit of play in the actual positioning of it all. And so the intake has one pin that goes through that hole there, and that's all it is. And then you drop it down just like that. It's really got a couple of attachment points where it's going to connect, but not really. So you just want to have it all so it's kind of flush up against each other, and it all sits nice and tight, and they line up nice. So you don't have big gaps in between the intake and the head. And that's that. And there's all our pieces that we just took off of there. This needs to be painted now. We're going to do aluminum. Now, got a choice. Do I do flat aluminum or gloss aluminum? That's what I like about building models. You never stop learning. Picked up a lot of good tips on your channel. Well, thank you very much, Nico. I'm glad I could help you out. A lot of this process that I've done in the last, I don't know, has it been 2 years yet? A year and a half maybe? Has been a lot of learning on my part too. So I'm just going to let this sit for a few minutes before I decide to throw any paint on it. We need to assemble the blower, okay? Blower, also known as, or AKA, supercharger. When I was younger, I used to think, I used to hear people say there's a difference between a blower and a supercharger, and they'd try and come up with some difference, and well, actually there is no difference. It's terminology, it's all it is. Some people call it a blower, some people call it a supercharger. The only difference is the type that you have. There's roots type and there's centrifugal, which are the two most popular kinds. The most type that you see on these racing cars like this is the roots type supercharger. What you'll see a lot of times in street cars are the centrifugal types because they're a lot smaller. So we've got the main body of our blower here, and then we've got our, what a lot of people refer to as the butterflies. That being said, because these little things, they flip open like this when they puts down the gas pedal or throttle. These things open up to allow air to be sucked down in through the supercharger into the intake manifold, because this is going to sit on top here like that. Okay. So sometimes these are called butterflies, otherwise it's just called an intake. Here's a perfect example of the comparison between the chrome out of the kit and that Amato chrome that I was testing in other little series. This is the Amato liquid chrome, okay, spray painted onto this piece, and then got a couple one or two layers of Tamiya's X22 over top of it, and that's what this is. And there's our comparison to the kit chrome and the Amato, and for reflectivity it's pretty close. It's not much different. The actual blower on this one is also painted in that same chrome. This one looks a little shinier. Definitely more of the mirror look to it than the Amato. But because I wanted it all to be the same, I painted the whole thing like that. And so that's why I wanted some continuity on the look and the shininess. It's shiny enough. It doesn't need to be crystal chrome mirror on there for me. I'm not building some kind of a show car. Yeah. So but one thing we do need to do is get rid of some of this chrome on the surface, because the glue will not stick if I don't remove it. So one thing I've always done is take my knife and I scrape away this chrome like this. You kind of have to be a little bit mindful of where your connecting points are on the two pieces where they meet. Okay, this is you do have a front and a rear. This thing sits like this. It doesn't sit, or does it sit like that? No, it sits like this. It's going to sit like this with the two. So this is the rear, okay? So the rear of this is going to go to this piece here, and that's going to sit like that, okay? And so you pretty much, you can get rid of a lot of chrome on this piece and not worry about it. I'd love to see the airplane kits having parts in chrome, landing gear, maybe back paint for light. Yeah, that would be kind of nice. So you don't see that at all in airplane kits. Even ones like, even an airplane that is, you know, traditionally it's got no paint at all on it. Like, what are those things? The Sabres or something like that? Where they're basically in, what do they call it? The aircraft aluminum color. It would be cool if they were to just do that and kind of have that pre-done for you, so you didn't have to do it yourself. Okay, so I'm almost at a point where I'm going to be happy with this. I'm going to get enough glue actually meeting with the plastic and doing its job for that to stick properly. So let's do that. Take this, put it the right way around, little tab at the top, put some glue on it, and put it up there. Again, there's not a lot for guiding you on exact positioning other than a little tab that doesn't fit. It's a loose fitting tab. So you just gotta eyeball it, make sure it's straight and it's not cockeyed and off to one side or anything like that. And that's all it is. Okay, so that's that one. So now we're going to work on the front piece. And one thing I hate about these chrome parts is you get that little spot where it came off of the sprue and it's not chrome there. But what are you going to do about that, really? Well, you can touch it up. That is an option. And with that Amato chrome, it actually is an option. Just about any other paint is basically just silver and is not going to look the same. And if you're really scrutinizing, you're going to be able to tell. And you see, here's an example. This is a specific rectangular shape. This is more rounded. So when you put this up there, you actually see the back here. You can see those corners where I scraped the chrome away, and that's now white. And that looks kind of dumb. But at the same time, I've had to do that in order to get this thing so that it's going to fit properly and actually sit. Because if you've ever tried gluing two chrome pieces together, you know it doesn't really stick. So okay, so that's scraped away, and we're going to put some glue on here. See, it only sits on very tiny little ledge on there. And now we have our butterflies, and we've got a very common problem with these. They've got a mold seam right here that doesn't look all that great, and you've got the spot where it was attached to the sprue. And that is one of the reasons why I painted this other one. Because now I need to clean up this little mark. And in reality, that seam line is not like that on the real piece. If you look at these things in real life, you don't have a line that looks like that at all. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. If I try and get the right angle, you can sort of see is in the reflection there, this line that's going down here, right? And you can see that. Now that it's a little blurry, yeah, you can see where it was attached on the sprue, right there, that little white blemish. So you basically have choice. I can just ignore the seam line and just touch up that white blemish and just leave it, which I just might do. I just might just leave it that. Just going to leave it like that. Now, again, attachment points where this thing mounts. We've got two pegs going into these holes, and that's really all you got for gluing it, other than this little back. It doesn't really touch anywhere else. It just barely touches at the front. And the only reason why it's touching at the front is because of a little bit of flashing right there. But other than that, we've got a little contact point right here, and the pegs. So the pegs, I'm going to scrape a little bit of the chrome off of the pegs, slowly turning it around as I scrape, like this. Question: do you have a kit where you regret buying and building it? Did you ever bin one like I have twice? Yes. Watch my first video series on building Maverick's F-14 Tomcat. I bought the Revell kit and I hated it. Absolutely hated it. Well, I can't say I hated the kit, but I was still very new to weathering kits back then, and I went to do some weathering and I really screwed up the paint job, kind of beyond repair. And so I wound up just smashing the hell out of it. If you watch the very last video in that series, I just took a hammer to it on my desk and just smashed it to pieces. And that was my cure. So here I'm just going to scrape out this hole and kind of make that hole white. And that should be good enough to get this thing glued and mounted. I could scrape a little bit away here. just to give it a little something to glue to right there. Okay, so glue on a peg, glue on a peg, glue on the back. Good enough. There we go. Blower assembly is now assembled. There we go. There's our blower. Okay. Now we have more pieces to put on this thing. The blower is just going to sit on top, and then we have our fan belts and our fuel pumps that are going to go in the front here. But we got to get some paint laid down on this thing. So the first thing we need to do is get some primer on it, because I like primer now. Back when I first started all this stuff, I hated primer. I didn't see the value in priming. I know priming is a good thing on something like your car or anything that's serious like that, but I didn't see the value in priming a model kit. As long as the paint job looks decent from 5 feet away, you don't really need to do very much. And that was my attitude for many years. Now that I actually use primer, I see I should have been priming a lot sooner. Just cleaning up this seam line here a little bit because I'm not happy with it. Even though this thing is not going to be seen very much from the bottom, it still just bugs me. And I do have a bit of a gap here. This is a very uneven seam. So I'm just going to feather it out a little bit. I gotta say, that's typical Revell molds. It's not really anything that's surprising. So just filing these edges down so it's a little bit more smooth transition, so it doesn't, you know, trying to hide the fact that it's two pieces glued together, at least a little bit. To the untrained eye, you won't know any better. And because it's a racing car part, if it's not super smooth and perfect, it doesn't matter. I once built a tornado. Nearly finished it till I decided to make a wash myself while using white spirit. It melted every glued joint, so I watched it slowly becoming a pool of plastic. Wow, really? I can feel with my thumb this extra mold lines. There we go. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Okay, so we're gonna have to is my air compressor fired up? Nope. I have to turn on my air compressor. I could use my Mr. Surfacer. I could use a Mr. Surfacer out of the can, but because I want to be able to get in every little nook and cranny, I'm gonna spray it with the air gun, the airbrush. So let's remove this right off the bat. And just make sure that's clean cuts on there. Yep. Do a quick little inspection for flashing. Yeah, it's kind of funny how you have evidence that this was once on a sprue. but it is gone now. There was no sprue. This was not on a sprue in the box, but yet there's evidence that there was one here. Almost like they removed it at the factory before putting it in the box. So this particular pipe is got a little blemish on it. Okay, that's pretty good. Got some flashing here. It's little things like that that, you know, you don't notice right away, and then you paint it, and then you realize, well, oh crap, I have to take that off. It's little things like that that can just ruin it and make it not as enjoyable, because then you go and fix it later and then you're taking paint off and then you got to paint it again. So that's why I'm kind of scrutinizing this piece more than I normally would. Like I said, I am kind of building this as a bit of an homage piece to my mother, who really liked Joe Amato back in that day. Okay, that's ready for priming. Let's put this over here. Let's put that there for now. What else are we going to prime? We're going to prime the engine. And since I'm done having it out, I'm going to spray some primer on all this and get that all ready. And we'll do these because it's going to need it. Might as well prime everything, right? Prime everything while I can. It's one thing I don't like doing is setting up the airbrush and painting something and then putting it all away, cleaning it all up, and then find out 10 minutes later I gotta bring it all out and add more paint or paint it again or something like that. I hate doing that. So yeah, I like doing it all once. Now, I do like using the Mr. Leveling thinner with this stuff. It just makes it spray a little bit nicer. So this, however, is going to need to be on one of these so that I can paint it without getting my fingers. And how do you guys like to watch me paint? I'm going to see if I have my camera set up properly or not. Sort of, yes and no. I sort of do. Let's see. How's that look? Yeah. It's a bit of an angle, but it's good enough, right? Does it have to be really up high? Like normal? Maybe. I know if I don't set it up proper, and I won't be happy with myself. So set that like that. And there. Alright, I think that's a bit better. Okay. Beautiful gesture. I just know she likes watching you build this. Thanks. Thank you. Okay. So, let's just move this out of the way so I don't accidentally knock things over. And we're going to use Mr. Leveling Thinner and get that ready. Grab a pipet. And we'll move these over here. And this too. It's kind of ironic, you know, they molded in white and we're going to be painting it all black. And then of course you guys won't be able to see the detail. That's funny. You just want me to get my fingers black, don't you? Get in there. You. Okay. That's probably more than enough. Especially since I'm mixing it 50-50, it's going to be doubling the volume. That's probably total amount that I need for this. And that's about 50-50 roughly. Mix. All right, we're ready to do some painting. I noticed my chat widget on this cam is also needs permissions, so just bear with me a moment here. I need to authorize Twitch to use it. There we go. That. All right. Okay. Fill up the brush about halfway, roughly. And actually, I'm gonna plug in my lights here. There we go. Okay, we'll start with the engine and get it primed. And that's about all you need for priming on the engine. You don't need to go crazy with it. There are a few little nooks and crannies that won't be seen once you put the blower and the valve covers on. And definitely where the oil pan goes, you're not going to see there, so you don't need to prime that. So let's put that over here, and we'll paint some other things. Let's get to the rails. Start here. almost the perfect amount of primer that I needed to do the whole thing, because I got no more in here, and my cup is almost empty. It's not quite, but it's close. So I think that is about where I'm going to let this for today. That'll be it for today. I'm going to clean up my airbrush. I'm going to let all that cure. A lot of the frame parts, a lot of this stuff, I'm not going to actually spray with black. I'm just going to do a clear coat over it. And I'll just use my TS13 and give it a nice clear coat, and that's all it's going to need. And I think that should be fine. More than good enough. We don't have to go with an actual coat of black paint on that, I don't think. And it should be fine. Yeah, so this is where I'm going to leave it for today, guys. I think that's good enough for now. I'll put that there. This thing here, our body, as I was spraying this, I was thinking, well, maybe I should have left the top, because this car, if you see in the picture, this part is white. And now I'm going to have to mask and paint that white, and that can be troublesome sometimes. But anyway, that's a problem for future me, right? Anyway, that's where I'm going to leave it for today, guys. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for the chat, Nico. And as usual, I think it was Megaboy said hello as usual, says hello and nothing else. But that's fine. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. Check out the description box below for links to my other channels, things like my Instagram and my Twitch and all that good stuff. And yeah, I guess that's about it for today, and we'll see you all in the next one.